And we are live. Welcome to the Nilvah Nexus. James the Idol Smasher at gmail.com is the email you want to go to get on the mailing list to get in on this conversation. It is open to anybody who is a Torah lover, questions about Torah at that. And we also have a Nilvah Nexus Facebook page on Facebook, which you can go there and join, and you get updates and you know when the hangout's going to be each week. We do this every Thursday night right here on the Google Plus YouTube platform. The longest running public roundtable discussion of Torah for the masses on YouTube. So as far as I know, there might be others, but they're not quite as popular as we are here at the Nexus. Oh man, we were thinking about opening up the public, open up the room to the public. And Yohanan here was like, yeah, let's just get all the hate in. But what do you think? And part of me, actually, thinks that might be kind of fun. But
I'm in the mood for some questions. I'm in the mood for the Spanish Inquisition coming in and putting the talks to me in a little. You know what I mean?
Well, you're all mods, so go for it. I can't at the moment, but I can't concentrate on that. I took some notes here. Since 1909, Congress in the United States has played a baseball game. That's the new kind of ball that swept over America back then in the 1800s. 1909, they've been having congressional baseball games where you get, Dems on one side, reps on the other, whatever, and they have it out on the ball field. Recently, it's been made a regular thing. A charity game. This year, the game is supporting the Boys and Girls Club of Greater Washington, Washington National's Dream Foundation, and Washington Literacy Center. Last year, they raised about $500,000 with this game. It's for charity, and it might be one good thing that these people actually do. Of all things, I pretty much detest my government, but it's not the government's fault mostly. Yeah, it is. But I have a thing with authority. A lot of authoritarianism going on there. But recently, yesterday, they opened fire on some congressmen. The Republicans were out practicing for today's ball game yesterday. And in doing so, they decided, hey, or some guy decided that he was going to snipe them. Sniping a baseball game for charity. That's what we've come down to. I don't know. He's like talking about the hate, the rhetoric, the frequency that the congressmen, senators have been getting lately for threats on their lives has actually increased in the past few months. And yeah, he shot like a stormtrooper, didn't he? I mean, the Star Wars stormtrooper. Gav over here says, thank God he couldn't shoot worth a damn. And as much as I detest my government, I couldn't detest them for this. I couldn't be like, I think my first reaction was, too bad none of them died. But I got to thinking about it. And once I found out who this guy was and what it was about, I didn't know the story at the time I said that. And then I found out, okay, lots of hate going on out there. Lots of hate talk going on. I don't know. Part of me wants to like fuel the fire. I just want to poke it with. Part of me wants to poke it with a stick. I wouldn't mind seeing a civil war in the United States of America. I almost think that it'd be better if it happened and we could get it over with. That's part of me. A good part of me wants to prevent it at all costs. But there is a part of me that likes, global floods and fire from the sky and plagues and famine. And, part of me likes that. Lots of hate going on. And that's all. Yeah, we're talking about the Comey testimony. Of course, two folks here aren't citizens, aren't Americans necessarily. Gab's American. Lee's Canadian, thank goodness. He doesn't have to put up with this like we do. I'm sure you get the news up there, but yeah, James Comey testified before Congress and proved he was and admitted he was a leaker and that Trump's not under investigation and yada yada yada. And Yeah, it's almost embarrassing to some extent. Just a wee bit embarrassing.
I mean, he's supposed to be a 6'6" Irishman. He's a punk. The way he talks, he's a punk.
He broke
It was
me.
embarrassing.
He broke me.
Yeah, that was one thing he kept saying. Yeah, he broke me.
Kathy Griffin and Comey on the same note. Yeah, he broke me. You know why I like Trump? You know why I like Trump? Because the hate against him is so far and extreme. Not that I like the hate, but just seeing stupid people lose it is kind of amusing sometimes. When you get a little desensitized to it, and after 15 years, you can't care as much as you did 15 years ago. Oh yeah, it's almost amusing, and the guy's not done that much, and what he has done isn't bad. He's not a. I disagree with him on a few things, on his choice for attorney general, but with that be said, a few other things. Yeah, he ain't that bad, man. He ain't that bad. I didn't vote for him. I'm not a Republican, but these crazy far out left wingers. They're not even they're fake left wingers. I know what left wingers are. I know what Democrats are. They used to be Americans. They used to be good people. And now the front runners, the people who get the most press or put themselves out there for press, are vile. Outright vile. It didn't used to be like that. Real liberals you're not supposed to be like that. That's not what liberalism was about.
I was going to say, if the Civil War comes and this the best they're going to get is James Hogginson or whatever his name is, who couldn't, shoot himself out of a paper bag, and I don't know who else would lead the charge on the left. Rosie O'Donnell with a dildo with a Neil's in it. I mean, I don't understand what are they gonna? They're not gonna do anything really.
It's almost like watching feral cats, isn't it? When you get, they're just mad at everything, and they run and slash. And
I think if there is a civil war in modern day America, I'm pretty confident which side is going to win. Let's just put it that way.
We've already seen how one determined man shot today or yesterday.
Well, I mean, they were talking about on the news yesterday how, Republicans blocked a law that would have prevented people with mental illnesses from getting assault weapons. It's like, thank you. Thank you for proving my point that far left progressivism should be classified as a mental illness.
Yes. That was quite brilliant.
Well, I'm with you, James. I mean, classical liberalism, good. Modern progressive leftism, bad.
What is it? It's not even liberalism. Or is it?
I mean, shouting down and beating the crap out of people you disagree with. If you'd have talked to liberal hippies in the 60s, they would have thrown you out of the auditorium for that crap.
This is true. Yeah, classical liberal, I would consider myself that. I like that. I have faith in individuals. I really do. I have faith in the individual human being. I can't deny that.
The left has pretty much became anything that is sort of, I don't even know how to really I don't even know what the words to even use, but it's like this acceptance for it has to be. Maybe it is a mental illness. It's like they're so far mentally ill that they will support Sharia law only because they view Muslims as like these oppressed, that underprivileged people. So, so you have a bunch of Republicans protesting. They're having this constitutional rally. They had one in the news. I don't know if people was keeping up. They had one in the news protesting Sharia law, whatever, which is meaningless. And I mean, that's meaningless in and of itself. But we get into that later. But they're protesting. This is how severely something wrong with these people. They're protesting the protest, and so they side with the Muslim. It's like, okay, what? Okay, I don't know.
Muslims would probably.
I'm not saying anything wrong about Muslims. I mean, not necessarily Muslims are bad. I'm not saying, but it's kind of okay. If you look at it just plain on paper,
they're not white.
Sharia law wouldn't be good for these people. I mean, the people that are siding with is not necessarily. Whatever, we could discuss that some other time, but it's just because they're so warped, because they see it as white, they see it as Christian, they see it as American, a family-oriented sort of culture, whatever you want to look at it of, normacy, whatever. So it's like they're so warped in the way they think. I don't know what you call that. I don't think you can call that anything.
Well, these people have been so indoctrinated in the public and school and university system to think that anything inherently to do with Western civilization is so bad and so demonic that it needs to be completely and entirely destroyed. And that, my friends, is bad. That could be a definition of mental illness. For all its problems, I mean, Western civilization I think it's been pretty good.
Better than a lot of them, hasn't it?
Again, not perfect. Some really messed up stuff happened. Still happens. Not going to deny it. Not going to cover over the warts. But for crying out loud, I mean, if you think Western civilization is bad, why on earth would you try and replace it with something much, much worse like Marxism, communism, or Islam? Islamic civilization is barbaric. Well, I mean, if you think Western civilization has been oppressive, yeah, another thing coming, Sonny.
If it's so oppressive, how do you get away with saying that?
Yeah.
And I saw an article that where 2 Black Lives Matters people were arrested after a big investigation because they're trying to help ISIS establish themselves here in the States. Black Lives Matter.
And this is coming from not to put Muhammad down or anything, but if you ever read the Quran, Muhammad had a personal Negro slave. And if you ever read the Quran, he actually named him legitimately Negro slave. That was the type of mentality that talk about, Black Lives Matter, you know what I mean? Muhammad, yeah, he sure loved black people, that's for sure.
Well, no, by all means, tear Muhammad a new one. Muhammad, by any objective standard, Muhammad was a terrible human being, even for the time period he lived in. But I mean, like you go to apartheid in South Africa, white Afrikaners called black Africans kafirs. They still do, like really racist white people in South Africa call blacks kafirs. It's way worse, way worse than like the N-word in North America. Way worse. It'll get you beaten up, shot if you say it to a black person in South Africa. What that word comes from is the Arabic kuffar, which means non-believers. And Afrikaners learned that from Muslim slave traders in Africa in the 1600s. And so kuffar, unbeliever, infidel, that became the racial ethnic slur for a black African to white Dutch descended South Africans.
Ice-T came on real time with Bill Maher, because Bill Maher used the N-word. Of course, Bill Maher's not racist, but he used it. And that's making people mad. And they say this thing, and I don't get it. For one, I'm not a Black Lives Matter. I'm a black is beautiful guy. I will strive for the light, in this one. I know what the problems are. I know about the Confederacy. It's still alive and well where I live, okay? It's real. I get that. What I don't get is I say that's our word. That's our word now. Because and Bill was like, well, you guys use it all the time. He goes, well, it doesn't hurt as much as when you hear it from a white guy.
Well, why would you use a word that was meant to denigrate you as a human being for 400 years to refer to yourself? Like, I don't get that. Like, find a different, like, I don't, when after Yochanan converts, I'm not going to walk up to him in the streets of Brooklyn and go, what's up, my Christ killer? I mean, it's not a, it's not, you don't use denigrating terms to refer to yourself and then demand respect from everybody else. That's not how it works.
And what I find out most amusing about it is that Ice Cube says, it's like a word that you can't use, and it's a word of it hurts, and it's like it shouldn't be part of the culture. Let's not forget that this person Ice Cube made his mark, made his identity using and saying things that weren't politically correct, wasn't acceptable rap albums, rap songs. He made his living doing the exact same thing that he's berating Bill Maher for. Bill Maher is, think about it. Think about it. He talking about, saying that, kill white people, cops, making whatever. You could say that. I don't have a problem with it. That's rap and that's the type of attitude, whatever. But to say that it's off limits, and that about you, Ice Cube, and your music, wasn't people saying that you were a little too edgy? Come on now. Let's get back here. Let's take it easy now.
I could make a list of all the words that I guess the white people can keep.
Yeah.
Porch monkey, yard ape, tar baby, llanta. That's Spanish for tire, by the way. We've got jigaboo, moon cricket. I guess we can keep all those, right, guys? Or you want to take for them too and have a nice big, sack on your back of devaluing devalue things that kill the soul. Just have a nice, big, like Santa Claus, this whole bag full of words you can use for yourself now. I'm sorry. Well, I mean, really, how far do we want to go? I would think that boy would piss somebody off, because when a white dude says it to a white dude, that's a defamation right there. To say,
my father used to call me boy. I didn't think my father actually knew my name for a number of years. It's all he called me. Boy, come here. Boy, get downstairs. Boy. Whatever. I'm like, yeah, I have my name. You did name me, right?
All right. Faith in Torah. It was the lack of faith that got us the promised land early. We could have had it 40 years earlier than we did. Here in our reading about our heroes here in the wilderness. And it was an absolute lack of faith. I've been told by a few people, I really believe that for me personally, I can at least attest to that the Satan, the adversary, that the true evil inclination is the one that whispers in your ear, who are you? Who are you to do that? Who are you to think so highly of yourself? Who are you to rise above it? Who are you to think you're better than other people? Kind of not like that, but that thing in your brain that tells you you are not worth it, that holds you back, that reminds you of all the mistakes you made, so why bother attempting it now because you've screwed up in the past. It's a fear. It's a big fear. I mean, we have it with each other as human beings. In religious terms, we've certainly had it. We've got enough history to prove that. But it's that fear, and if you walk with confidence, walk with fearlessness. But yeah, the whole point that Moses sent some people to go check out the land. They bring back this mutant fruit. Took like 2 guys to carry a vine. They probably like the size of basketballs. A grape, a juicy grape the size of a basketball. Think about that. And they came back full of fear and dread and loathing. We were grasshoppers in our own eyes. Here, where is it? There we saw the Nephilim. Ah, okay. Where's Hermine? There we saw the Nephilim, the sons of the giant from among the Nephilim. Okay, I heard it was Rephilim. That's Nephilim twice here. Okay. Among the Nephilim, we were like grasshoppers in our own eyes, and so we were in their eyes. So I'm wondering if this is the kind of thought process, if this is how the Nephilim can make people who have just witnessed God speak to them and split the Red Sea and bring 10 plagues and everything else that God does for us. The effect that just witnessing this thing, these people, these sons of giants or whatever, sons of the giant, whatever, we were like grasshoppers in our own eyes. To see yourself as a tiny speck that could be easily crushed underfoot and not even thinking about it when you're walking. And you would view yourself that way. I think that comes into why we have this political hatred, you know, because of the emotional hysteria and the influx of massive amounts of real-time information that people says through social media and the like. And of course, the information that you do go to get is 9 out of 10 times going to be biased. You feel, I hate to say the word like this, castrated. You feel like half a person, and you're angry. Your side lost, and so you must. They already feel less of a person. I brought this up with the South will rise again, and people I'm having a conversation with. What are you going to do when you rise? Round up the Negroes and put them to work again? What are you going to do when the South rises again? Secede from the Union and kill Yankee soldiers? What are you going to do when the South rises again? And I think this rhetoric that they keep putting in themselves is actually self. It's what do you call it? It's a recursive occlusion. It works against you. That I'm already down and oppressed. Go ahead, Rabbi. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, it's the same way I feel when people say, like, all these blacks, all these Hispanics, and all these, whatever, they all need to go back to where they come from. It's like, okay, you want to see your economy really take a crap? I mean, you really want to kick all Hispanic or Mexican immigrants out of the country? You better invent some self-picking fruit, because God knows you're not going to do it.
Yeah, 400 years, and you still have a hard time with that, don't you? Yeah, the white man's fear. White guys, dude, the white man's skittish enough, okay? You convince him he's in fear of his life or that his entire history will be erased. And yeah, he's going to freak out. And that's, yes, they see themselves as grasshoppers, and they don't like it. They have to bow up and, inflate themselves and be bigger than they are.
I mean, I understand, like, you hear the terms like white genocide. It's like, where is this happening? Like, it's not like you're an endangered species. There's a lot of you. It's not like, you're.
Yeah, I don't fear that.
It's not like you're like Native Americans combined. There's maybe 1 million total full-blooded Native Americans left, if that. I mean, you're not disappearing. White genocide is basically a term for, my daughter dated a black guy and now their kids are not going to be completely white. It's like, that's not a genocide. That's two people getting married, dude. Let it go.
Perhaps the spies already thought low of themselves before they saw the inhabitants of Canaan.
Well, I think the sin of the spies, if I'm not mistaken, was that the fact that they rendered a verdict. So Moshe commands them to go out and survey the land. They didn't come back to survey the land. They didn't come back with a survey. They came back with a judgment. Oh, we're grasshoppers. They're mighty villages. They're big people. They're gonna smack us around. They're gonna treat us like Trump with Comey. It's not gonna be pretty, right? It's not gonna be good news. But what's funny about it is that to connect it with reality, connect it with today's times, it's sort of like Comey. What was Comey's problem? What was his sin? Is that he renders judgments. It's funny that he's supposed to survey. That's his job as FBI director. Okay, I'm going to survey the land. I'm going to get information. I'm going to survey, gather information. That's his job. But he's out here judging. Who says you can judge? That's the problem. Mm-hmm. That's the problem.
Ooh, that's a really good point. Yeah, they didn't. They scandal mongered. They hyped up everybody, didn't they? When they came back, they got everybody all freaking out. National hysteria. They were losing their minds.
See, the thing is this. It was foretold, right? It was prophesied that this land, flowing with milk and honey, was guaranteed to these people. It was guaranteed. So they knew no matter what. They should have known, I guess, would be the better way of saying. They should have known. not conquer. It was going to be. It's going to be successful campaign. They're going to come in, take the land, done, and the story. But the problem is, it's just like last week's Parsha. Remember how the Yudin were complaining, oh, the fish was free. I remember the time in Egypt, the fish was free. And now they're complaining, oh, we're just little people. We're just specks with grasshoppers in their eyes. It's the same sort of mentality. It's sort of the same mindset that when God told, going back to Abraham and Lot and their family, what did God tell them when God was going to schlep them out of Sodom and Gomorrah? He says, never look back. God told them, never look back. And what happened? Lot's wife became a pillar of salt, right? Looking back, right? God commands us all the time in the Bible. There's many commandments that tells us never to look back. You can't, another example would be you can't turn your back in war. If you're a soldier fighting, you can never retreat. You can't turn your back. It's kind of funny, right? There's a lot of commandments like that. Why? Because why do you turn into a pillar of salt? Why did you, if you look back, or if you have this mentality of that you're no good, you turn to salt. What's salt? The question is, what's salt? The salt is what? Coarse, without water, right? It's made from chemical reaction with the sun, whatever. I don't know exactly how it's worked. But it's no bracha. There's no blessings. So that's why you don't look back. When you look back, you turn to salt. So this is exactly what's happening in this situation, in my opinion. That's kind of like how I connect it. So when you're salt, if you're thinking yourself as a grasshopper, and you wishing you can go back, and I don't want to be here. Oh man, you're turning to salt. You're not gonna open yourself up to the blessings, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
I like how it's worded. If Ross was here, he'd know what I'm talking about. And this pops up too. I think later on in this Parsha, and I think in the Haftorah it might pop up with the phrase "if you please." Hashem spoke to Moses, saying, "Send forth men, if you please, and let them spy out the land of Canaan that I gave to the children of Israel." And if you please, in the commentary here. Now, yeah, so whenever you hear Ross, if I may interject, or if I can, I'll say, if you please. That's because we went off on this all night one night. Like we were up till 12 or 1 in the morning. The implication is that God gave Moses permission to send spies, but left the decision up to him. In Devarim 1:21-23, the Torah provides further information on the sequence of events leading up to the mission. As explained by the sages and Rashi in both chapters, the people came to Moses and asked him to dispatch reconnoiter, of Canaan and report to them. Moses consulted God, who said, "I have told them the land is good, but since they question me, I will let them test my veracity at the risk of being misled and losing their chance to enter the land." Although Moses apparently approved the demand, he actually hoped that this agreement would dissuade the people from pressing their request. The sages offer a parable. Someone wants to buy a donkey, but says that he must first pass a test. The seller enthusiastically agrees. "May I take it to both mountains and valleys?" Of course, seeing that the seller is so confident of his animal's prowess, the buyer decides he has nothing to fear and forgoes the test. He buys the donkey and is very satisfied. So too, Moses thought that his willingness to let people have their way would convince them that they had nothing to fear. He was mistaken. They wanted to hear about the land from their peers. So he sent the spies. Was the "if you please"? Now that comes up again. I'm almost going to start flipping through the Parsha and lose what I'm thinking or lose what I'm doing just to seek that out. And I guess we have to wait for Deuteronomy to get a more detailed version, which,
I have a question for the rabbi, if you'd like to hear it. That would be chapter 13, verse 25, and actually, yeah, verse 25 and 26, as they returned from spying out the land at the end of 40 days. And this is a time period we hear a lot. It's repeated multiple times, this like 40-day period. I'd love to like have some insight into what's the significance of the 40 days. As well, they went and came to Moses and to Aaron and to the entire assembly of the children of Israel to the wilderness of Paran at Kadesh. Does that word Kadesh, or that name, related to I believe Kadosh? Are they related in some way?
Yes. Same.
Okay.
I mean, without vowels, it's basically spelled the same.
Okay. All right, thanks. Anything on the 40 days?
40 is a really kind of you see the number. It's not always days. You'll see it in years too.
Right.
Like the number of kings, their reigns were 40, not 40 days, 40 years. So in Genesis, rain fell for 40 days and 40 nights, and the Noah's Ark story.
And Moses goes away for 40 days.
The Israelites lived in the desert for 40 years, the wandering.
That comes up in this week's Parsha as well.
Right. Moses' life, is divided into 3 40-year segments. Growing up, fleeing from Egypt, and returning. So
I didn't know that about Moshe. I didn't know that.
A mikvah, a ritual bath, consists of 40 seah, which is it's an old unit of measurement. It's about 200 gallons of water. 40 years is a generation in the Bible, so it's a lot of things.
Oh, thanks.
No problem.
I thought a generation was 20 years.
A biblical generation is 40.
Ah. Oh. That's a horse of a different color. I guess we kind of get accustomed to having got around, don't we?
Well, yeah, I guess it's trying to prove to us, like, these people have seen things that we have not seen, and yet they were even susceptible to doubt and loss of faith. And we just, for us, it's either the Torah is the word of God or it isn't.
Right.
Yeah, so it's just showing us, like, this to be mindful and very careful out there in the world, especially us, because there's no community other than the online one, or like some places have them, but
Right. Another thing I just thought of, because my parents both grew up in Russia, I know a lot of Russian villager, like especially where my dad is from. He's from Siberia and in the Ural Mountains. A lot of Russian peasants have a superstition that the spirit of a deceased person stays in close proximity to the body for 40 days too. I remember being told that. I've had a number of Russians tell me that. There's just kind of like a folk tradition they have. I'm sure it's completely unrelated to the biblical stuff, but it's still.
Oh, isn't there also a thing where it's, if I remember correctly, there's no the child, like like the child inside of a woman for the first 40 days, it doesn't have a sex. It's like it's has a potential probably for both male and female, but it doesn't have a sex until like 40 days or something like this.
Right. So the first 40 days of a pregnancy, it's not considered. It's really tricky. It's not considered like a person with rights as a person. That's why in Jewish law, if you're going to have an abortion, like if you have to for some reason, they usually recommend like in the first 40 days because it's not considered even a potential human being.
We have a visitor.
Oh,
Yes. How you doing? We're going to give you a little attention, and then we're going to send you back out there to mommy. Because I could just sit and look at you and baby talk, and that would not be much for Torsten. Mwah. I love you.
I guess I'll bring up that we also have another name change here. You guys can comment on that. And we have with Joshua.
Where's it at?
Oh, let me just see quickly. You guys know what I'm talking about, right?
I will.
Here it is. 16, 13, 16. These are the names of the men whom Moses sent to spy out the land. Moses called Hoshea, son of Nun, Joshua. And it says Moses added the letter Yud to Hoshea's name so that his name would begin with the letters of God's name.
yes.
That was a bracha that he gave him for not. So in this week's Parsha, the way we know that the minion is 10 people is because it says the evil congregation. So they use the spies. I forget how exactly the word it is, but Caleb and Yeshua were the only ones who were testified positively, or however you want to put it. So they both receive a bracha. They both Moshe blessed him with a new name, and Caleb's bracha was, it's off the top of my mind. I don't remember. Maybe the rabbi. I don't remember. I forget what Caleb. He was given something. I don't know.
How many name changes are we at now? If we're so far in the Torah, there's been a number of them.
We've got Shem had different names. He was Melchizedek, the priest. We had Jacob to Israel.
Abraham and Sarah.
Abraham and Sarah both. Yes. Keturah, or Hagar became Keturah.
Didn't our boy the non-Jew there who's Jethro, didn't he have another name as well? He was possibly referred to as another with another name.
Hobab.
Yeah.
That was last week's Parsha. Said 7 so far.
There's probably some that we're missing, but it's pretty interesting.
Hobab was Yitzro's son.
Oh, that's right.
Oh. I don't think that was the name though. I think there was another. Wasn't there another name? Yeah. I can't remember.
Of names for Jethro. 7, I think.
But yeah, there's a number of them. That's for sure. I like the message screamed at the bottom at the end of chapter 14, verse 9, where it says, he's yelling things and says, "Do not fear them," and he's warned as well, "Do not rebel against Hashem, fear Hashem." And that's basically what this comes down to when you're out in the world. Do you fear men or do you fear Hashem? It's kind of hard to fear other men if you fear Hashem.
Well, But what brings it? What drives us to it? Like you said, the Israelites, they'd seen some stuff and done some things, man. You know, they've been there. The golden calf is another one. This is what would drive people. Like I said, do we get accustomed to God just hanging around? Oh yeah, the pillar above the yeah. Oh, that's the creator of the universe's presence. Yeah.
Do we just sounds unbelievable to us. It sounds impossible to us that this.
It does. It sounds, but we do it all the time, don't we?
Yeah. Well, we are in this dense world every day, and I don't know. But yeah, it's a warning to us to stay vigilant, especially since we have one foot in Egypt at all times.
Yeah, it's harder to pull. It's easier to pull the slave out of Egypt than Egypt out of the slave.
Can't really see why. Having been there, it's an ugly, ugly country.
Yeah. The pyramids make up for it?
The pyramids are interesting. Don't get me wrong. There's some nice people I've met there, and they're fascinating history. Unbelievable. Fascinating history. But, I mean, you know, you go to, the Muslims call it Nebi Musa in the Sinai Peninsula, and that's what, Christianity and Islam think that's Mount Sinai. I happen to think it's a different mountain, but that's a discussion for another time. But, you go to the top, Moses got to the top of Mount Sinai and he got, the 10 Commandments. I got to the top of Mount Sinai. I got an Egyptian kid with a cooler going, Pepsi, Coke, Snickers.
South of the border of Mexico, it's chiclets.
Yeah. And I was like, yeah, I'll take a Pepsi. It's real nice and mystical up here.
I know. People always ask me, like, why haven't you traveled? And I'm like, well, I already feel pretty good where I live. I'm pretty lucky to live here. And frankly, all the other cultures that I'm supposed to be in love with are mostly trash. Not, or they were destroyed for a reason. The Greek, Roman, Egyptian stuff. There's a reason why they're no longer around.
The farthest I've ever been was Canada, Nova Scotia, and towards the south. The farthest I've ever been was Virginia. And to be honest with you, living in New York, everyone comes here, right? So when I go to, sometimes I go to Brooklyn, sometimes I go to Queens, the city, Manhattan. There's everything there. Every religion, every color, every creed you can think of. So it's, I don't have to travel because they come to me instead,
I love to travel. Last count, I've been to 40-some different countries. So next month, I'm going to go to Colombia for the first time. After that, I'll have 5 out of 7 continents down. So.
My first rabbi was from Colombia.
There's a community there. And I'm hoping to hopefully find someone to help me do what I got to do while I'm there. So.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah. Traveling within the the U.S. has some beautiful places too, and some very nice people. But the funny thing is about traveling within the U.S., there's really no surprises. Everywhere you go, it's exactly how you thought it was going to be. Like you get to San Francisco, and they're all like, "Oh, we're offended," and like, "Yep, that's pretty much how I thought it was going to be." Like, you get to New Orleans, and you're like. I associate this with hookers and voodoo people and weirdos hanging out on sidewalk. Oh, yep, there they are.
Have you ever been to Texas yet?
I was in Texas last year, very briefly, and the next time I'm in the United States, I'm going to be in Texas, Oklahoma. I'm going to be in Missouri briefly. And possibly also Mississippi and Louisiana.
I have to come find you and shake your hand while you're here.
Well, let's make it happen.
there's a lot of places. I traveled a lot in my youth, and now traveling is a chore. I grew up on the road, and I was always a good traveler, but now I'm very happy at home. I'm going up to Colorado next week. That's why there will be no more there will be no Nexus next week. I'm going up to Colorado. Visit the fam.
Colorado's beautiful.
I'm sorry?
Colorado's beautiful.
Yeah. Going to Denver and Manitou. We have to go to the pagan community of Manitou Springs in Colorado Springs. And there's a Jewish restaurant there. And they close on Shabbat and everything. So I might have to go there because I showed up on Shabbat and, for a honeymoon, and hey, but they're closed. Lots of fun people and beautiful scenery, mountains, and kids get to see mountains for the first time.
You ever been to the Ute Reservation in Colorado? Some very, very nice people. Some very, very poor, very, very downtrodden people, but very nice people. I have a very, very good friend who lives there.
And what's this again?
The Utes, they're a Native American tribe that's indigenous to Colorado, and they have a reservation in Colorado. And I met one of I don't know if he's the chief or if he's the chief's son, one of the two. But I met him, of all places, at the Wailing Wall in Jerusalem, and he was visiting, and he wanted like a local guy to show him around who spoke English, and that ended up being me for the day. So.
Cool.
There are places I would definitely never travel again. Like, I'll never set foot in France again. Forget France.
Really?
Yeah.
That's a shame.
Yeah, no, I mean, not a big fan of France or the French. For all of their liberty and brotherhood and everything, they sure do hate Jews.
I cracked up when I saw the post today. It's the Jews, Jooo.
Yeah, well, some of these people are so stupid they probably don't know how to pronounce it. Well, it's like that guy there was a guy who at a protest in London, a Muslim guy. Obviously, English isn't really his thing, but it said, kill all Jews. He spelled Jews like juice, as in, like orange juice. Whatever. And there's the other guy I think I was at the same rally who didn't know how to spell either. I think he meant to say behead those who insult Islam, and he ended up saying give head to those who insult Islam or something.
I wonder if the translator just wanted to mess with him. This will make you look good. So if I'm not mistaken, Israel could have gone into the land right then and there and taken it instantly if they would have had the initiative.
Yep. Just a little leap of faith.
It just seemed, when I read it, it just seemed, or skimmed it, it just seemed prevalent to what's going on now. There's just a lot of fear and loathing.
Yeah.
All right. Everybody left us, and nobody's coming in. Here we get the proselyte word again. Yeah, considering I've been chewing on that past couple of weeks, the Ger Toshav being a transition, a transitionary phase, or a thing of transition.
Historically, it was, yes.
That's I've been chewing on that.
Well, if you notice, again, there's always prohibitions in the Torah. Like, you don't let a Moabite or an Edomite enter the community until after the third generation. Okay, so what were the first two generations? You know, if you don't consider him part of the community of Israel, if you don't consider him an Israelite until after he's been among you for 3 generations, then what was he for the past 2 generations? What were his father and grandfather? They were Ger Toshav.
I was
Sorry about that. I'm back now. Apologize. I guess I put this announcement on the outside broadcast. I don't mind. Oh, we lost Lee. I wanted to tell Lee this. Is my volume kind of fucked up? You're adjusting the sound.
I had you loud, and you came in loud.
I'm a New Yorker. You don't have to make me any louder than I already am. I have an appointment to see the urologist. So,
to make sure you're fit for
a urologist for the snip, bring dip, snip, bring dip. So we'll have an after party. I'll tell you the day, James, and on the outside. I won't say that here, but you know what? I really want. I told my rabbi. I told some people I really want to have like a nice little private little thing for some people, and maybe we'll get like a couple of people to sponsor or something. So I really hope really want to do something nice. So that's a little bit of an update for the people that were wondering.
Do you know which Beit Din they're using?
I have no. Only thing I know is it's in Manhattan. That's the only thing they told me. My rabbi.
Okay. Well, there's like 4 in Manhattan that I know of.
Yeah. It's nice if they actually said which one, right? He doesn't tell me.
Okay. I'm sure either way it'll be good.
I mean, it's Manhattan, right? It has to be good, right?
Yeah. Well. Yeah.
So I kind of went to the bathroom. I kind of missed out on what the topic. Did we change topics? What happened?
We were just talking a little bit about. I wanted to confirm with Gav that we that if the Israelites had have crossed over at that time without even sending spies, they would have taken the land. Bada boom! It would have been a cinch.
That's a good question.
And he was saying, yeah, it would have just taken a little bit. I have to take care of something here real quick, y'all. 2 seconds.
No problem. Sounds good. So I just remembered what was Caleb's blessing, and that was that he visited the grave of Rachel, at a gravesite in Hebron. That was where he was. That was what he was doing. Where he was at when the incident of the spies took place. So, anyway, just wanted to. Totally forgot that a few minutes ago. Oh, welcome back, Lee. Oh, nice. You're sideways. Oh,
Yeah.
There you go. Right side up. Beautiful. You're so different without the beard, man. It's like when I think of Lee, I think of the beard, bro. How long did it take you to grow that beard?
Well, I don't really know because it gets to a certain length but I left it for like 3 years or something. Great. I don't know.
So you say so about 3 years or so, you say?
Yeah, but it probably stopped. I don't know. Yeah, about that.
It stops at a certain length. Yeah, that's
Right.
Everyone has a certain. Your hair, like people have a misnomer that your hair just keeps growing if you just let it. That's actually not scientifically true. Your hair is the length of your hair is as genetic as the size of your nose.
Really?
That is true. Yep.
Yeah, what's interesting, one time I heard a rabbi talking about how there's 13 parts to a beard. And if you notice, like, not the whole thing grows all the same lengths. There are parts of it that are all different lengths. Do you guys know which one is the 13th part? Because it would be 6 and 6, since it's on your face, 6 parts on one side, 6 parts on the other. Where's the 13th part?
If I had to guess, it would probably be the mustache, no?
Well, that's split in 2 as well.
Oh, is it? No.
How about the goat? The goatee under your lip.
It would be that little soul patch thing under your lip, under your bottom lip there.
Man, I got this thing here, and I have to trim it often, but it curls. I have a Nike swoosh, and if it's trimmed now, but it will literally swoop sideways. When you see pictures, yeah, it's an obvious. It all goes one way.
Yeah. Yeah, I also heard one say, like, the only reason you should cut your beard or cut your beard is if your wife asks you to, or she just can't get past it. But I was getting way too much.
That's kind of how they do it out here.
Yeah.
My wife gets mad at me when I trim mine.
Oh wow. That's
Which I don't know if I should be I should take it as a compliment, like, oh, she thinks I'm so handsome with a beard, or, oh, I don't want to see your ugly face that's under it ever. You know, I can't figure out which one is the goal here.
Yeah.
If I shave, yeah, my wife will get pissed, and it takes a couple of days. She'll just look at you. She'll just look at you. You know, thanks, honey. I have a great chin. You know, it's way up there. I have a great chin. It's got that little dimple that runs in there. Boy, I had a friend of mine here who just gives me hell if he sees me with. He's like, I hate your face. I hate it. Grow your beard back. Okay, dude. I hate your face. He just looks at you and they look at you funny. I still think you're a handsome man. You can beard or no beard.
Oh wow, thanks.
John's got the problem. No.
They get mad at me, but you know, they kind of want me full on Lubavitch over there, but I have to trim mine back. I just don't. You know, I mean, I guess it's just that Irish genetics, but like it just becomes like I look like a werewolf or something. Like these mutton chops on the side, it just. And like what you were saying about how it curves to the side, think about long mutton chops and they're curving upwards. And it's just long flow and it's curving up. It's just, yeah, exactly the way you just did. It just, I got to trim it down. I just have to.
I got something here. Hang on. This is what I started using. Because mine.
There's nothing wrong about cutting your beard or shaving, technically speaking, in Judaism. So. But,
isn't it just supposed to?
It's just, yeah, it's just sort of like kind of the way it goes. Yeah.
Okay.
Honest Amish. It's Beard Balm. Honest Amish.
Nice.
Little can, and it really, you know, have you ever seen the Rebbe's beard? It kind of and
yeah.
Okay, that's what mine does, and this stuff actually works pretty well. And it has a nice, pleasant smell. Honest Amish Beard Balm. I think if there's anybody in America who could sell me a good beard balm or beard balm, the salve, you know, kind of like the grease I used to put in my hair back when I had it, so I get that outsider's Elvis look.
Everyone hates everyone hates when I trim. Whenever I trim down my beard, everyone gives me crap for it at the temple. The rabbi's kids, the wife and the rabbi, they always say, "Look, so they go, ugh, you shaved, ugh." Like, yeah.
Isn't it?
I have to say, I do look better with a beard. If I go clean shaving, which I normally don't go clean shaving. Only sometimes I'll completely cut it down, but I look much better with a beard. Go ahead. What were you gonna say, Lee?
Isn't it just that like you can cut it? I heard, like, you guys could verify this if possibly that you can cut it, but you can't use a razor because that's like to shave it all the way down to the skin is like an Egyptian custom. Is
You
that
can get you can get electric shaver.
Yeah, you can't use a straight edge blade.
all right?
Yeah, you can get electric shaver.
They're horrible
You
for
did,
anyway.
it's just nowadays. I commented on the rabbi's post because he sent the link to some rabbi was talking and he had no kippah, no beard. It's just so odd because every day I'm like I go to different temples all around. It doesn't matter who they are, Sephardic, Ashkenazim, Lubavitch, whatever. I go to the young Israeli thing place, and maybe not the parishioners or the people who go there have beards, but every rabbi has a beard, even if they're Persian, and most Persians shave. Like literally, every Persian I ever met shaved, even the Jews. But the rabbi will have some sort of remnants of a beard. You know, it's just like kind of. It kind of is just a thing. I don't, whatever reason, you know.
Most rabbis have beards, correct? One that I'm very well aware of does not. You don't have. I mean, there's no commandment to necessarily have a beard, but it is pretty standard.
It's just Kabbalistic nowadays. It's just a Kabbalistic thing. It's just that the Zohar says that it makes a reference that it purifies your blessings or something like that. So that's kind of like why people do it.
Well, Zohar says that your spiritual essence is in your beard, which is, I'm sorry, it's fundamentally ludicrous. But
oh, okay, yeah, right. Your fun. Yes, I'm sorry. What am I thinking of then? Something purifies your blessings. What am I thinking of? Something else. I don't know. It's just so much. I don't know.
Do we have? Is there like this is non-religious, but do we even have a scientific agreement or as to why men even have them in the first place, in terms of like a biological function or?
Different biologists have. I mean, it's all theory. We don't know 100% for sure, but evolutionary biologists have theorized that it was a way that when you became of age and you were sexually mature and you could mate, that it was basically a way of letting the other sex know. Start growing hair in places you previously didn't have hair.
Right, like a lion.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's good, right? Yeah, lion.
Well, look at the Indian code talkers, particularly those of World War II. They'd helped with the war in World War I. And some of the trackers were brought in, not necessarily code talkers. Maybe I shouldn't have brought those because I think it was something different. But when they brought them in for tracking and they brought them into the army, of course, the army shaves their hair. And they said when that happened, they couldn't track anything. They lost all anything that would be extrasensory, if you will. When they cut their hair, when the Indian cut their hair, they lost their power, if you will. They lost their essence. And I'm wondering if the same thing,
Samson,
of course, they didn't have
Samson.
Isn't
that Samson? Samson,
huh?
They cut his hair. Samson, that happened to Samson in the Bible.
And, well, the Indian didn't have beard, but their hair's cut. I'm just wondering if there's something to it. And yeah, like a Nazarite, he cut his beard, cut his hair, and he had nothing. And then when he grew it back, well, Samson is the superhero. I dig Samson, man. The more I learn about him, that's another guy I'd like to maybe take a class or 3 to explore. To be Samson.
He's a fascinating guy.
Huh.
It's
his death, though. The way he brought. I mean, there's just not a cooler. I mean, I could almost associate it with a Klingon because it's all heart. It hits you in the gut when at the end of the story, and you know it's. Yeah, that's a superhero. Greatest prophet ever, Moses. But as far as superheroes go, the closer you get to Superman, it's Samson all the way. Brookie, how you doing, my lady?
I'm good. How are you?
Peachy, better for seeing you here. Thanks for stopping by.
Well, thanks.
We're talking about beards.
Well, I don't have much to say other than, well, you can see my husband. He's got a beard. Ever since coming to Torah, it seems like most of the men who come to Torah tend to have a beard.
Yeah.
We're talking about wondering if the beard might have something to do. We brought up Samson. That's when you walked in. But if a man's beard gives him, if having hair might, like a cat's whiskers have a function, an actual a sensory function. We're wondering if the beard, is it the lack of shaving it that the head relaxes or something?
Well, that's exactly what the rabbi was mentioning about what the Zohar references, that man's essence or the way he connects to the Lord is through the beard. It's somehow it's been a while since I read the Zohar, so I don't really remember what it exactly says, but it's something to that effect. It's sort of like a sensory.
Is it like the longer it is, the longer your antenna is? You get better reception the longer your beard is.
I never heard of it that way, but that's actually, I think that's what it's probably going for. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's where I was going.
That's how glasses worked. I thought the nerdier your glasses were, the better cable reception you got. That was the joke I used to tell before I had corrective surgery. I don't have to wear glasses anymore. But
would you do LASIK?
I don't know what it's called. It was laser surgery. Yeah.
That's what my wife had. LASIK was the word.
The Army paid for it. So
there's one I want to ask you about, Gav, real quick. Keturah was her name. Hagar was a title. Yeah. We don't know of Keturah until after we hear of Hagar, right? She was Hagar first, and then in the Torah, chronologically, if you will. She appears first as Hagar and then Keturah.
Yeah, but Hagar is... Excuse me, I'm eating breakfast while talking. This is great. I apologize.
It's literally Hagar.
Uh-huh.
Hagar.
But if you notice, when does the change take place? When do they stop calling her Hagar?
She leaves Abraham, or when she comes back to Abraham. Is it okay? I don't know. I would say it's either when she's left Abraham or when she comes back to him.
When she leaves and she's no longer part of his family or his encampment. Hagar just means the sojourner, the someone who dwells among you but who's not one of you. So she leaves. They stop calling her that. They just call her by her name.
Yeah, when I read that, I was wondering if the Gar.
Yeah.
Which is the one that goes away?
What now?
There's the Gor, the completed convert. There's the Ger, and what was the other one?
There's the Ger. There's the Ger Hagar.
Right.
And Hagar, which is more or less the similar same thing.
Okay. Now, okay. Because Hagar left.
Hmm? Yeah.
Hagar, Hagor. Oh. It's a shame Ross isn't here. I think you would have really liked that. Another something in the Parsha this week, the Stone Edition, those of you who'd be viewing this on YouTube, it's got, in a way, if you will, summaries next to the English translations. And in 15 verse 27 and then 15 verse 30, there are two different, they're talking about two different forms of idol worship. One is called individual idol worship, and the other one is intentional idolatry. Under individual, this is what I'm curious about here, is the singular versus plural or collective. Under individuality, I want to read you the part of the Torah that they say is individual idol worship. If a person sins unintentionally, he shall offer a she-goat with its first year as a sin offering. The Kohen shall atone for the erring person when he sins unintentionally before Hashem to atone for him, and it shall be forgiven him. The native among the children of Israel and the proselyte, the ger, in your gates, if you will, there shall be a single teaching for them, for one who does unintentionally. And yet over here in the side thing, it says individual idol worship. But in the text, it's unintentional. It's unintentional is the word they use. Now, now when it says intentional idolatry, and this is why I'm wondering why this would be separated from individual, is it goes like this. This is on 1530. Numbers, by the way, if you throw it on home, if I haven't said that already. A person who shall act high-handedly, whether native or ger, be blasphemed Hashem, this person shall be cut off among his people, for he scorned the word of Hashem and broke his commandments. That person will surely be cut off. His sin is upon him. So why would an unintentional sin be referred to as individual idol worship? And yet the individual is the subject of intentional idolatry. Or I guess why is individual and unintentional? Is it the lack of community? Any ideas, anybody?
Right. So individual idol worship, well, still a problem, don't get me wrong. If you do it publicly, out in the open, high-handedly, you're giving the impression that it's okay to do. You see the difference?
Remember Esau? He used to run in the cave and hide his idol worship. That's the first thing I've thought of. I don't know. That's kind of interesting.
So an unintentional sin, and the unintentional idol worshiper would. But Esau was intentionally doing it. I don't know if that could be an unintentional.
Well, idolatry in general requires intent. I mean, there's really I don't think there's an accidental way to worship something. But I think the difference legally, as far as halakha is concerned, if you're not doing it publicly, it's not as big of a problem because there's no potential to lead other people astray by letting them think it's okay to do. I mean, you do something in privately, no one else knows you did it. It doesn't affect their perception of what it is that you did wrong. Where, if you do something in front of your children, they think, oh, hey, daddy's doing that. It must be okay.
That's why, according to the law, halakha, when someone comes to give a sacrifice, let's say you have a big makkah, right? And he publicly desecrates Shabbos every week because technically you got to forgive your sins, you got to bring an animal. But he does it every week, and you know that this guy, he drives on Shabbos. He doesn't care. You know what? I'm not going to walk. I'm driving. But all of a sudden, one day, he wants to, oh, you know what? I feel bad. I want to give my offering. They reject the offering. They're not allowed to.
Yep.
Why?
It's not. The offering is only for unintentional.
There you go. Exactly.
If you sin if you know that what you're doing is a sin and you do it anyway, a sacrifice won't work. It will not be enough. You have to actually make an effort, and you have to. I hate to use this word because it's associated very deeply with Christianity, but you have to, with a very contrite, sincere heart, repent of what it is you did wrong, and demonstrate that it's not. I mean, you have King David. King David, his sin with Bathsheba when he had his friend killed and he basically knocked up his friend's wife, tells you one thing: men haven't changed a whole lot in 3,000 years. No, I'm serious. I mean, that's the most 21st century story ever. A guy sees a hot woman bathing naked on a roof. The first thing he thinks of is, how do I get with her? That could be on Jersey Shore for all we know. But it's a timeless story. But because of what he did, he knew he had done wrong. There's no evidence in the Book of Kings that King David was ever required to bring a sacrifice. He had to come to the knowledge that what he did was wrong and realize it and feel contrite and afflicted in his heart that what he did was wrong. And then you see the prophet Nathan, the Lord has already forgiven you. That's the phrase once it's translated from Hebrew, meaning that once God saw that his heart realized that he had done something so wrong and so abhorrent, that's how you experience an atonement when you've done something wrong intentionally. a sacrifice is not enough.
Right. If you deliberately violate the commandments, you're punished for it. It's just the way it goes. You have to pay a price. There's no sort of sorry you can sort of do. And when I mean sorry, I mean bring a sacrifice. That's why when it's kind of funny to bring up the Christianity point is that they have this idea that the sacrifice is done, they're gone. Jesus was the last sacrifice. We're all good now. The Mashiach will come in the third temple, whatever. Read the Tanakh and you ever read the way the system goes, if you ever read Jeremiah and Isaiah and all those, they're still bringing sacrifices in the third temple, and when the Mashiach comes, they're still bringing sacrifices. So the question is, well, it says that everyone's going to be righteous and they're all going to be bound to God, right? All knees shall bow, meaning we're all going to accept God's law. We're all going to be righteous, but they're still bringing sacrifices. So the question is this, the answer is this, the question is that there's going to be things that we do wrong that are accidental. We're just going to do things that are accidental. We're going to be dancing, right? Me and Idol Smasher, we're going to get down, two Gaelic brothers getting down doing a jig, and I might accidentally kick him in the shin. Hey, look, it's an accident, but I sinned. I assaulted a person. I have to bring a sacrifice. That's the way it's going to work. That's the system. That's just the way the system is.
I also like the way that Gav put, like the way he put that, to feel afflicted. When I've screwed up, yeah, it really is, a physical feeling of affliction. I've been there. I've been there. That's a good way of putting it. It's when it becomes an affliction to you, almost like I guess you're afflicted with Saras for, I've been there. I've known when I've screwed up and I've known it, and it's like I know God's not going to talk to me for a while. You get that feeling when you do something really stupid, and it's like, oh man, and it's like I'll talk to God anyway. But it's like when your wife's pissed at you and you make the apology whatsoever, and her back's turned to you the whole time doing dishes and doesn't say a word. Say it anyway. That's kind of how I felt. I've been there. I've been very afflicted. I've felt cut off before in my time. When you're so used to it being close, and you mess up and it's not there, it hits you. Hits you like a brick.
Yep. And there are things reflexively that the community can do to kind of help that feeling along. It's called harem. You put someone in a harem when they've sinned publicly and knowingly. This was a case in Cleveland a few years ago. A Beit Din wrote, a letter that this particular individual was to be considered harem, excommunicated, until he publicly makes an announcement that he's sorry and that he's going to mend his ways and no longer violate this portion of the law. Members of the community are not to eat with him. They're not to talk with him. They're not to have anything to do with him until he changes. It happens.
I would hate for that to come to that with me.
I know people that have been there. It's not common, but it happens.
I'm sorry, I was in the other room, but I heard what you were saying. Like you can't even eat with him. What we were talking about?
Haram?
Oh no, harem.
Ooh.
Harem is excommunication from the community. If a person sins publicly, it becomes public knowledge. Especially if it's affected other people, like this particular individual that I knew. They put them in harem. It's a status that you carry until you change and you apologize publicly for what you did. That basically members of the Jewish community can't do business with you. They're not supposed to associate with you. You're not supposed to allow them to come to shul and pray with you. You're not supposed to really have anything to do with them. And it's basically meant to be very, very painful and embarrassing until they realize, hey, pardon my French, I've been an asshole. I need to fix something.
If the affliction doesn't get through it, you will be afflicted. There was, I think it was, I heard a similar tale. I don't think it was told as a tale, but about in terms of divorce, when the marriage is shot, it's over, and he refuses to write her a declaration of divorce or whatever. I don't know the proper word for it.
A get.
A get?
A get, yes.
The get. Well, it was a story where everybody knew that he was doing it not because he wanted the marriage or because he loved his wife or that he wanted to make good. He was just being a jerk about it. He just wanted to keep her on a string. And the community came together and like tied him to a post or something, or they compelled him by force.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's tricky, but yeah, the Beit Din that I used to work for in Cleveland, that happened a few times where a guy would refuse to grant his wife a divorce, and they would basically they'd take the same steps. They basically put him in harem. Don't talk to him, don't do business with him, don't eat with him, don't associate with him, or whatever. And if that doesn't work, it only gets rougher for you there. So there's a lot of leeway what you can do to someone to force them to divorce their wife after they've refused for so long. I mean, the Talmud says, if a husband who doesn't want a divorce says, I don't want a divorce, the Talmud literally says, you twist his arm until he says, I want.
Mm.
So yeah,
it was actually on the news out here. It was actually on the news here recently in New York that a rabbi was arrested for twisting some guy's arm because he didn't want to give the wife a divorce.
Well, he did a lot more than that, but that's
yeah, well,
necessarily disagree with all these people. I mean, yeah, I get he broke the law, he broke and everything. He has to do time for that, but I really don't have a problem with anything he did. But not in Cleveland, we solved it a little bit more creatively. So basically, there was this guy. I'm not going to say his name in Cleveland. This was probably about 10 years ago. He had refused to grant his wife a divorce for almost 10 years. Almost a decade of this poor woman's life is gone. She can't move on and marry someone else or anything. She's still anchored to this mamzer. And so basically, what a bunch of women in the Cleveland Jewish community did is they got together and they basically agreed, we won't go to the mikvah until this guy grants his wife a divorce. And so basically you have all these Jewish guys in Cleveland that aren't getting any, quote unquote, from their wives, and they're getting mad, and they basically all ganged up on this guy. It's like, you're the reason why we don't have happy marriages right now. You need to grant your wife a divorce. And it got her a divorce in about a week.
I like that. That's justice. All right. I sent a message out to everyone. Apparently it was received on some end. Yeah, I sent an invitation out. Going to try for the heck of it. Brooke, how have you been? Anything about this week's Parsha or anything you wanted to discuss, or questions, comments, complaints? I can take complaint. Oh, I just saw. I'll be right back. Okay, well then, I'll stick it to you when you're back. Custody. Here we have a jail. I think this is the first time we've had a Jewish jail, if you will. It's when the guy was gathering sticks on Shabbat, and people didn't know what to do with him because it was Shabbat, so they put him in custody. I always prided, if you will, or was very happy with the Torah that didn't have prisons in it as part of the justice system, that it was on rare occasion that you had to put a person into custody and they wouldn't be there for 5 years like in the States before they got a trial. Whether guilty or not, I'm not saying you got to try him, but give him a trial as soon as humanly flipping possible. But we get jail because they know what to do with him. When you got a crazy person, you can't just, you can't, if he's crazy, he needs treatment. You got to do something with him. So I'm not like, against the idea, but I always like that in Jewish law, I never hear of a prison where you just have a warehouse for men. You just put all these.
What did they do with crazy people back in BC?
What did they do with the crazy people?
Yeah, well, like biblical times. Like I always watch like old movies. Like I watch. There's a good Netflix series, the Hatfields and McCoy, and there was like a guy in the show. He was a nut. He was like a little. I don't know what he had, Down syndrome or something, and he was just like the local. What was he? What was his role in the show? He was just like a local Cotton
Top. He was the one who wore McCoy notches when he was a Hatfield. In other words, he was killing McCoy pigs. Or
they
wearing the pig ears.
Yeah, they gave him. Yeah, it's they found this. They found something for him to do. What's the problem? We've evolved technologically and medicine wise and science, but we still can't figure out what to whatever. I don't know. It's weird, it doesn't. I don't know. It just seems like back then people knew what to do. One of my interesting things is that I always bring this up because it's like one of my most fascinating things I ever learned in my life. But in the Talmud, there was a discussion. There was this. It was recorded that this guy was found guilty of murder, or he was like a serial killer. He killed a bunch of people in the town, and they put him on trial. And they found him guilty. And then during the trial, they found out that he just had a bloodlust. He something in him. He was mentally ill, but he had a lust for blood for whatever reason. He wanted to kill things. So they made him the town butcher. Look, most people are queasy with blood, but this guy has a bloodlust. Put him to use. I find that to be like the most it's so weird how Jews will just figure something like it makes me smile.
I heard a similar story where they made a guy a moil. It wasn't necessarily a bloodlust. He liked inflicting pain. And so they made him the moil.
Yeah, there you go. Go call him. I need him.
The moil, by the way, for all the folks out there in YouTube land, that's the guy who does the circumcisions.
I'm a moil.
That's right. You are.
I don't actively do that anymore, but I did at one time.
How come you don't do it anymore? I gotta ask.
Time constraints. I'm probably going to be getting ready to do it here again in about a week and a half. My son.
That's right.
One-time thing. But.
Oh, you get to circumcise your own son.
That's the custom. If you're a moil.
Okay.
How old will he be?
So he was born about a month early. He'll be roughly equivalent to what he would have been had he been born on time.
I thought you had to circumcise at day 8.
Following a normal, healthy birth, yes. My son was a C-section because he was premature and there were some complications.
So is that part of the oral then?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we could not circumcise him 8 days after they pulled him out of my wife. He wouldn't have been able to handle it. He would have died.
Wow, I never thought of it that way. I guess there's kind of just thinking in absolutes, right? So it's no, it has to be 8 days no matter what. But yeah, for a premature baby and it wouldn't live, it makes sense that it wouldn't be.
Correct. And normally you're right. For a normal birth and the baby's healthy, it has to be 8 days. Even if it falls on Shabbat, it still has to be done, which is what part of the reason why I gave it up is it had me doing an awful lot of walking on Saturdays to get to people
Oh, yeah.
that had children born the week before that. There'd be some Saturdays I'd be gone all day. I'd have 5 or 6 to do in one day. So.
Oh.
Need more moils.
Yeah, well, I was one of 2 for a community of 80,000 Jews. So.
Oh, wow. Brooke, I'm glad you're back. Is there anything that you wanted to bring up or discuss or talk about?
Well, did you see in the Gare group, Facebook group, whatever, I get Gare, they were talking about I'm going to say this wrong, the she-tooth versus idolatry for B'nai Noach?
Yes.
It was like 75 comments when I got on there or something crazy.
Really?
Maybe it wasn't 75. It was just a large number of like just comments on that and people going back and forth about what it means and who it means what to.
There was a blog out recently I read and I was very disappointed in this particular individual who was trying to discredit the notion of she-tooth. Like my first reaction to the notion or that you cannot that a Noahide is allowed to eat a roadkill. I was appalled by that. But he's allowed. It doesn't mean that it's just saying you can't kill the guy for it. That's not the same as eating a limb of a living animal. He's not liable for a crime for eating roadkill. And so with people saying that she-tooth, the difference between the Noahide law and the Ger, one of the differences between the Ger Toshav and the Ben Noach is a Ben Noach is not required to reject partnership with God. The fact that he acknowledges God and in his own way serves in his own way, that's not the same thing as idolatry, because he's got the God of Israel in there. And he was going off, and what was it that they said? I think that I've padded it enough now. I forgot where I was going. I've layered it with enough jargon. Shoot. They're very upset at it. That I can understand she-tooth is not something that we want to promote, but that's what it was. They were angry that it came out of Germany. That all these notions of she-tooth were talking in Germany in the Middle Ages, and we know just how Germans were in the Middle Ages, and they were really, for you to teach a Noahide that he can have she-tooth, France, that too, yeah, I would not, no doubts at this point in history, in the Middle Ages, yeah, they were nasty. It was a nasty world, and yet they said these things of she-tooth came up, and it's a fairly new concept, and it's not in the Bible anywhere, this, that, and the other. And I'm thinking to myself, well, there really wasn't such thing as a she-tooth until about that time. By that time, Islam had begun to take a foothold. It was a force to be reckoned with. The Christians were relatively new even then, 1,000 years ago, whatever, 700 years ago. Still kind of a new concept. From before that, or at least I don't know of any, and I haven't found any in my Torah study, there's no real half in, half out kind of people. I mean, if you're Molech, you're deplorable. If you're Peor, you're deplorable. If you're Merculus, you're deplorable. Egypt, in its own way, you had a very silly Pharaoh, as Lee would put it. But there was nothing that believed in things like her that would promote things like the Ten Commandments, or that would promote that you were created in God's image. You still need Jeebus in there, according to them. They'll say you still need this, you'll still need JC, but they acknowledge God. So really, they need to even discuss the notion of she-tooth in regards to a relationship with God. Didn't even come up until then. I don't know. For me, she-tooth, it's I personally find it very merciful.
Well, it's The concept itself is fairly simple. A lot of the legal ramifications are not. This is not Jewish law saying that this is ideal or even okay. It's a leniency for very particular circumstances that existed at that time, and arguably still exist into this day. It was basic, for lack of a better terms, it was for business, for something called idut, or witnesses. You couldn't sign a contract with an idol worshiper to do business, so let's make a little allowance for him where his little Trinity thing isn't so bad, really, and we can kind of, if he's nominal about it, we can kind of work our way around it. So that's kind of how it started. It evolved into much more than that, but that's kind of how it began.
And it was because they believed in God. Yeah, they had a Trinity, but God was in there somewhere that we could make another, or we.
Well, they believed in, quote unquote, our God. They believed in the biblical God, obviously with some modification. I get that. But the idea, so, I mean, you're allowed to teach a Christian Torah because they believe the Torah is divine. You're not allowed to teach a Muslim Torah because they don't believe it's divine.
Whoa.
Wow. And that's actually the part of the argument for, the Christians, is the fact that most of them haven't read the old, they haven't read the Tanakh.
Not like we would, anyway.
Well, right. They're going to look at it as a history. I mean, they still believe it, but it's not necessarily relevant to all of them. And so they just skip forward to the part that says, hey, that other stuff isn't relevant because we have a new system. And that's the argument. You go back and you say, but you believe in this. You know this is true because you can't believe what you believe without it. Because the Tanakh is the foundation of Christianity's religion when you get down to it, because it's the history. And so if you could get them to read it, the first time I really read it, as relevant, I couldn't see how Christianity could work anymore. I mean, it wasn't relevant once you understand the foundation.
Me too. I went and bought a JPS Tanakh and started with page 1, chapter 1, and I read it over the course of a week. I just dove in, and it was like nothing I'd ever read before. And I knew the story. I'd seen the movies. I went to Sunday school. I was confirmed. I was an acolyte. I knew, but when it was the way you put it, relevant. When you read it as relevant, boom, the universe opens up.
Right. And then at that point, you can't understand how anyone else can't see it because it's so obviously there. The logic there.
I came home a zealot, pretty much. I had a Siddur. I had my book on Kabbalah, which was just basically a presentation. It wasn't a Kabbalah book or whatever, nothing like that. But I was enthused, and just I came home, Grandma, Grandpa, Mom, you were right. There is a God. It's not just about enlightenment, it's not just about self-development. There's something more to it. It's real. I've seen the science. I saw the inner workings of this thing. It really works. It's real. And they rejected it because it was Jewish. And that blew me away. Recently, I didn't know that Jews were under the influence of the evil one who rules this world. I did not know that until recently. I thought that this guy was just hated Jews. No, that's what they're taught. But I really didn't know. I came home thinking I came home. And I realized real quick in about a week's time, I was definitely on the way out, outer skirts of this family at this point.
Yeah.
Nobody got it. It was like, I get what Jesus was saying. He makes sense now. And he did. He made perfect sense. Everything he said, I got him. I got Jesus. I would question when he says, I'm speaking God, or, when he's, But even I could look past when he said, you know, if you're coveting your wife, you might as well be you are committing adultery. You know, I got that. It's not right, but I got the man. I got what I thought it was. Boom. Yeah, I found it real quick. I am definitely not in that religion anymore. And how I could get past them is beyond me. How can you go to a church that bows before a crucifix and have the second commandment on your wall at home? I don't get it. It makes no sense.
Right.
Welcome, David. How you doing? Shalom.
How you doing?
Doing all right. Talking Shituf at the moment, or anything in the Parsha. I'm sorry?
I didn't catch what you said.
Shituf.
What's that mean?
Oh, it's one who, okay, it's a Torah room. You're in a Torah room. You know, we talk Torah.
Okay, yeah.
And there's like the Israelite is about God and God alone. No devil, there's no other gods, yet it's monotheism. The notion of Shituf is a belief like Christianity where you would need a partner or an other. For instance, Jesus could be the partner. The Trinity could be two partners with God. You could also look at the whole Gnostic notion of the devil and God having a battle with each other. That would be Shituf.
Interesting.
So we're talking partnership. That's where we're at anyway, with the Torah. So what brought you to the Nexus, my friend?
Well, I don't know if you remember me or not. I've hung out a couple times, but I didn't have it's been a couple years actually, because I didn't have a camera microphone at the time.
Well, welcome back.
I was invited here originally by Reuven.
Oh, boy, Reuven, nice.
Reuven's all right. We just hate each other.
I think I kind of remember you. You're sort of. I think you don't label yourself a Christian, but you sort of fall into it somehow in some way.
Yeah. I label myself a Torah observant Christian.
Right. That's an awesome label. Nice.
Cool. There's a debate going on deep in the community, particularly the Noahide ben Noach, whatever community, and with Shituf. And that because the idea is there are people who want to say that Christianity is idolatry, and there's an argument, there's a fact that not all of the Christian denominations are idolatrous. You know what I'm saying? That they don't look at Jesus as God in the flesh and bow to a statue of Jesus. There's like the Mormons are one who it's more like Jesus was my brother. Jesus is my brother. I walk with him, and before God, and then all things in between. All the different Protestant. They took out Church of England, smashed every Catholic idol in the land when Henry VIII took over. And so the thing is there's so, and I was like this too when I found Torah. I went and I declared flat out, slapped my hand on the table and say Christianity is idolatry because there's an idol there, because I grew up in a church that bowed to statues. And over a course of many, many years, my heart has softened a bit, and we're finding out that actually there is something in the law that makes an allowance for the Christian because they do believe in God. And there's a contention going on. There's a debate, an argument. Brooke was talking about something that was a pretty recent post in a group that we're in. And apparently it's blossomed of people just going back and forth about this thing. And I was saying it's very merciful, and the rabbi in the room was saying that, yeah, it kind of is. It was a way to make an allowance to really to live with people, Can we call them idolaters when they're saying that we believe in your God? You know what I'm saying? So it can't all. It's just interesting that the law makes that there would be an allowance made after being around it for a while, and That comes to the realization and the community that we can't reject the Christian, that in fact we have to in many ways do the exact opposite. And you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that kind of makes sense, because I think I have a rather well-formed opinion about the world and people. But one of the things I think is that all people are basically logical. I know this seems totally unrelated, but essentially, if you just use different inputs, the same logic works. And what's happening is the differences between, say, a Jew and a Christian as to whether they're worshiping the same God has to do with minute interpretations of, the character of God or things like that. So whether it's idolatry hinges upon whether Jesus is God, right? Because if he's not God and you're worshiping him as God, clearly that's idolatry. But there's at least a point of view to be made that he is God. And if you hold that point of view, the question is, can you be considered an idolater if you, in sincerity, believe he's God and are sincerely trying to worship who you believe is the true God?
Well, but the thing is that everybody's going to sincerely believe what they believe. I mean, idolaters who worship a rock sincerely believed it was a god. So I don't think the degree of sincerity works if it's an idol worshiper or an idol.
Well, I'm not saying that all people who sincerely believe are equally right. But what I am saying is you have to have some amount of patience for accepting that there are different points of view. And within a certain range, you have to accept that I have to accept that I'm wrong about things. I've been wrong about things in the past and had to change my beliefs. And what happens if I say so-and-so is an idolater, and then 10 years down the road, I find out that really they were right and I had a completely stupid point of view. So you have to have some sort of gray area where you say, I don't agree with you, but I can understand your point of view.
Absolutely. I really like the nice logical scientific notion of when new evidence comes before you, you learn to adapt to said new evidence and grow. And a lot of people aren't into that. You know what I'm saying?
Right, but it's easy enough to say you believe in that. But what is really requiring is that you accept that you may still be wrong about some of the things you now believe, and that other people may be right even though you think they're not.
Yeah. Well, if for me, it's easy when God comes in all forms, or all things are God. I should say, okay, there's nothing but God. That's a great way to say it. It would behoove me. Yeah, definitely. It would behoove me when I see an opponent. Maybe I should, that it would behoove me to listen, to hear. Yeah. Because it might be, there might be a good reason why an opponent's placed before you, perhaps to make you reevaluate where you stand. I like that. Anyway, I'm glad you showed up. Thanks for coming by. I put the Facebook page and my email over here in the side chat. If you want to ever come back and yap, you can join the Facebook group, and that gives the link, the G+ link, every week. And if ever you're bored on a Thursday night and you want to talk Torah, come on by. If you're not on Facebook, there's my Gmail address, and I'll get you on the mailing list for the YouTube Google Plus side.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's roundtable. It's like we've been doing it now, I guess. Well, if you're friends with Reuven, I got to get him back in here. I hope I'm scared of the guy because anyway, we had a falling out, but sometimes anyway, I miss the guy sometimes. Every Thursday roundtable. I'll be gone next Thursday, but every Thursday a roundtable, open, genuine Torah talk, and anybody who's interested or is a lover of Torah is just welcome to come by at any time. And that's what we do. That's how we roll here on Google Plus YouTube. Well, what do you say, guys? Are we ready for a Haftorah?
Sure.
Let's do it.
We're a little late on getting this done tonight, but for those of you at home following along, the Haftorah, and if you're first time, Haftorah is a section of the Hebrew Bible that directly pertains to the Torah portion we read, or that we were studying, or that was our subject today, which is Shlach. This week we are in Joshua chapter 2, and we're going to read basically chapter 2, I believe. It is chapter 2, well, chapter 2, 1 through 24. I don't have Joshua open. This is a Stone edition I'll be reading from. You can follow at home. This is where we're going to be at. It's in the back of the 5 books of Moses. I do have some other study Bibles over there. We'll read from this one tonight. Here we go. Joshua chapter 2. All right. Joshua, son of Nun, dispatched from Shittim 2 men, spies, secretly saying, "Go observe the land and Jericho." So they traveled and came to the house of a woman innkeeper whose name was Rahab, and they slept there. It was told to the king of Jericho, saying, "Behold, men have come here tonight from the children of Israel to search out the land." The king of Jericho said to Rahab, saying, "Bring out the men who have come to you, who have entered your house, for they have come to search out the entire land." The woman had taken the 2 men and hidden them. So she said, "True, the men did come to me, but I did not know from where they were. When the city gate was too close at dark, the men left. I do not know where the men went. Chase after them quickly, for you can overtake them." But she had brought them to the roof and had hidden them from the stalks of flax that she had arranged on the roof. So the men chased after them in the direction of the Jordan to the fords. They closed the gate soon after the pursuers had gone out after them. They had not yet gone to sleep when she came up with them on the roof. And she said to the men, "I know that Hashem has given you the land, and that your terror has fallen upon us, and that all the inhabitants of the land have melted because of you. For we have heard how Hashem dried up the water of the Sea of Reeds before you when you came out of Egypt, and when you did not, and what you did to the 2 Amorite kings across the Jordan, to Sihon and to Og, whom you utterly destroyed. When we heard, our hearts melted. No spirit is left in man because of you. For Hashem, your God, he is God in the heavens above and on the earth below. And now please swear to me by Hashem, since I have done kindness to you, that you too do kindness with my father's house and give me an authentic countersign. Keep alive my father and my mother and my brothers and my sisters and all that they have, and rescue our souls from death." The men said to her, our soul is in your place to die. If you do not reveal this discussion of ours, then it will be when Hashem gives us the land, we will deal with you in kindness and truth. And she lowered them by the rope through the window, for her house was in a wall of the fortification, and in the fortification she lived. She said to them, "Go to the mountain, lest your pursuers meet you. Hide there for at least a 3-day period until the pursuers return. Then you may go on your way." The men said to her, "We shall be clean from this oath of yours, which you have made us swear. Behold, when we come into the land, this scarlet cord shall be your bind in the window, from which you lowered us, and your father and your mother and your brothers and all your father's household shall you gather into the house. Then it will be that anyone who leaves the doors of your house from the outside, his blood guilt shall be upon his own head. We will be clean, but anyone who will be with you inside the house, his blood guilt shall be on our head, if a hand is upon him. And if you will tell of this discussion of ours, we will be clean of our oath that you have made us swear." She said, "Like your words, so it is." And she sent them away, and they went. And she tied the scarlet cord to the window. And they went, and they came to the mountain and stayed there for a 3-day period until the pursuers returned. The pursuers sought along the entire way, but did not find. The 2 men returned and descended from the mountain. They crossed the Jordan and came to Joshua, son of Nun, and told him all that happened. They said to Joshua, for Hashem has given us, let me try that again. They said to Joshua, for Hashem has given all the land into our hands. Also, all the inhabitants of the land have melted before us. Now, compare the word of the spies here in the Haftorah compared to what we read in the Torah, in the Haftorah, in the Parsha this week. I mean, they came back confident. I guess it took 40 years for the word to spread as to what happened in the wilderness, possibly. For people who had heard about the God of Israel before their hearts melted. Maybe news hadn't gotten around.
I love the analogy.
Shalom, Ross. Glad you're here.
Shalom.
This week was our if you please moment, you know. Go ahead.
Which, if you please, is this one?
Send into the land, if you please, spies.
Okay.
The opening part of this week's Parsha. He sent in spies, you know.
Yeah.
But go ahead. You said there's an analogy. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. You didn't catch it, I guess.
I might have caught it, but I want to hear from you.
Well, 2 spies come in to the city, and some people saw it happen. Then they sent people to the door and said, where are the 2 men that came into you? Sounds like Lot, doesn't it?
Huh. No, I didn't catch that.
Send them out that we may deal with them. Right here, huh? Then go into your house, close the door, don't come out until morning, until the destruction is past. Sounds like Egypt.
With a scarlet signification on the outside of the dwelling.
Right. Blood of the lamb on the doorpost, scarlet thread in the window. And she stayed inside, locked the door, and didn't come out until destruction had passed. You didn't catch that, huh?
I caught the second part. But Lot, no. If we discuss that definitely went right over my head again.
Second time tonight we mentioned Lot.
Yeah, it is.
I missed the first one.
You were at I'm guessing you were at work.
No, chatting with my other half.
We were talking about, you know, the having faith in Torah.
Yep.
And the in this week's Parsha, the spies go into the land and come out frightened beyond their wits to the point to where I don't think they really believed it because they had to convince everybody else. And it was that lack of faith. Okay, there's a pillar. There's the 10 plagues. There's the Red Sea. There's the Sinai event. There's the pillar, you know, that leads them. And they still were hysterical. Came back, and it's like if they just would have had that little instance. We talked about that if they would have just gone in at that point, not sent spies or anything, they would have taken it. And that cost them 40 years.
Right.
So Lot and his family don't look back. Don't look back. And what happens when you look back? So it's that lack of faith, that, you know, and having faith in Torah. The men who came in, the 2 spies that came into Jericho, now they came out standing tall. You know, they came out ready. We melted before they have melted before us. Only 2 guys before said that, but by this time, the spies came back and were fearless, you know.
I do. Yeah.
That's when Lot was brought up earlier. Now, there won't be a Nexus next week. I'll be out of town. Of course, everyone can join up. Korach is next week. And
Ooh, nice. He's pulling a Michael Jackson Thriller on us. He's back from the dead. Korach, didn't he get swallowed at the foot of Mount Sinai? Got eaten as a snack. Yeah.
wow.
Sorry, did the Michael Jackson Thriller throw you into a loop? You just got it now.
Wow. Before we start the afterglow and the dancing girls come in and we start having fun, kidding. Anybody have anything else they want to bring up as far as this week's Parsha, possibly next week's Parsha? We'll talk about that when we come back, because I like Korach and I like how he gets his own Parsha title. Because there's some interesting things about Korach. Certainly different points of view. Some very much more favorable and merciful than others. But we'll have to do that when we get back from our Colorado venture. On behalf of Berkey, David, Yochanan, Ross, and Rabbi Gav, Shabbat Shalom, y'all. We'll see you later.